Okay, so once this gets started, we'll go back in, and please don't got it in time. All right. So I believe that we've resolved all manners. Good, honestly. So unless there's any objection, I think we can continue with the rest of the agenda, barring that Eric will not be sworn in tonight. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we can get to the easy part. So, AJ, this is for you in particular. If you wouldn't mind repeating after me.
Yeah.
I, Senator
Mandate,
do hereby affirm
do hereby affirm
that I shall justly support
that I shall justly support
and defend the Constitution and bylaws
and defend the Constitution and the bylaws
of the Student Government Association
of the Student Government Association
of the Illinois Institute of Technology.
of the Illinois Institute.
I vow to fulfill my obligations
I vow to fulfill my obligations,
to my constituents
my constituents,
and my duties as a senator
and my duties as a senator
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
All right. Congrats. So, moving on, we're actually going to be starting to talk about the Constitution overall. But there are a few transitions that are going to be taking place. So I have a few things I need to take care of, so I'm going to be leaving, and we're going to be transitioning to Isaiah leading the meeting. Confusing, but I just have a lot I need to take care of.
Good luck.
Research paper and climate.
Get on it.
Oh, real quick. There, you headed up?
Yeah, sorry. So much.
You're fine. You're fine. We can take care of like the clicker and stuff like that later. So. Right. Well, hopefully the rest of the meeting goes well for everyone. Thank you for your patience.
Good night.
See you later.
Thank you, Executive Vice President Kelsey.
Make sure you put on that. Make sure you put on that scarf before you.
I'm going to freeze.
Now he's gone, so he just made the president the chair of the meeting. It's really fun. All right, let's get this party started.
All right. So, remember correctly. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna have a brief discussion about constitutional changes. Again, I've said it before, the goal is that to iron out basically most of the changes basically now, and then we will have a quick Senate meeting in December during break to basically approve everything. That should be really fast. However, this discussion specifically is about how the Senate will be structured and how it will be represented, of which Nova has a little infographic that I'll let him present in a second, but this is kind of the time for that. So I'll go ahead and just give the floor to Nova.
It's just one slide.
Yeah.
Thank you, Isaiah. So if you have been attending the Constitutional Convention, or if you have been reading the legislative comments, this isn't too much different from everything. This is essentially the same slides I presented on Saturday to the Constitutional Convention. But to break it down to everyone, assuming you don't know it, this is what I would call the equity proposal for the Senate Assembly. I guess I'll just go into it. Yeah. So there are kind of 4 categories or 5 categories for each of the seats. One of them is by year, which is the largest category, in which case it'll be broken down such as seen 2 for each year, except for year 5, which will have 1 seat, and then 3 seats for the graduate students. That will come up to a total of 12 by year seats at 29% of the total voting member votes. By college, this is borrowed by our current system. There will be just 1 seat each still. of each college: Armor, Chicago Kent Law, Archie, Computing, Design, Lewis, and Business. That comes to a total of 7 by-college seats, which is 17% of the voting members. Then there will be 5 at-large seats. This will be to represent the entire IIT system as a whole. 5 seats come out to about 12% of the voting members. And then there are, the next category is kind of DEI or minority students. Some of them are based off of ethnicity or nationality. So those would be 1 seat each to Black students, Indian students, Hispanic, Asian, Muslim, LGBTQ+, and women and disabled, coming to a total of 8 DEI seats at 20% of the vote. And then 3 other minority seats. These are ones that are already currently in our Senate. These would be student orgs, and that would be 1 seat each: athletes, commuter, and Greek council, to a total of 3 and 7% of the vote. And then finally, the executive board, who all gets a voting member's seat, 1 seat each for each of the associate vice presidents of academic affairs, engagement, and then the 3 new ones: campus life, residence life, DEI, and finance. 4 new ones. And then with the merging of communications and events into engagement. That comes out to 6 executive board seats, or 15% of the vote. The goal of this, as you can kind of hint from the title and the way this is organized, is to ensure that there is equitable representation for each student group and minority on campus, while making sure that no group is too powerful. As you can see by the percentages in the statistics box, there is no group that is even close to forming a majority by themselves. At the least, you would have to get 2 groups to vote fully in favor, and then 1 other seat to pass anything by 50% plus 1 majority. So yeah, I really think that's it. This is the proposal we've been kind of working on with an executive board for the last month, 2 months now. So yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and move into discussion for 5 minutes about, well, actually, questions first for Nova about anything for about 5 minutes, and we'll go into discussion. Sorry. I'll go with Tessa.
So this has the exec board listed as seats. Are those considered Senate seats or not?
They're not senator seats. They are, so if you want to look at just Senate seats, it would just be everything to the left of executive boards, but I thought it'd be fruitful to include executive board because they are voting members and they do vote on legislation.
Chris?
May I ask why there's 5 seats for the at-large?
So this is also borrowed from our current model. So all of here, there's a focus on each one, but I think there's also an importance for students who are kind of in many things, to have the opportunity to represent the entire campus. And there are students who are very, very involved with various parts of campus that might not feel they fit within one of these categories specifically. So I think having those at-large seats are beneficial, and also borrow from our current model.
So I have 2 questions.
Sure.
So first one, I haven't been here in a little bit, so for the
Yeah.
DEI seats, I know initially those were assigned to specific student orgs, just demographic based.
Yes, so that is a big change. So we did have some specific seats that were for student orgs, like the Women's Center. So the change is, yes, instead of putting one concern we had when we early presented this was that we were putting too much power into a specific student org. So in order to make it more equitable and kind of get what we're going across with, it's more demographic based. So that the way these will be assigned is it'll be work between Senate, DEI, the VP of DEI, and executive board in order to work with the student orgs that represent those demographics. So Isaiah, I know there are multiple student orgs that represent Black students. It's not just Black Student Union. So we would not just be working with Black Student Union, we'd be working with all those student orgs to get 1 senator to represent them.
So those are just based on the candidates that register if they fit into one of those groups, or do you have to register?
You would be working with the student orgs.
Or they would, okay.
Yeah, and they would work with the VP of DEI to get someone in.
So would these be filled by, so in the case of, so say, would it be filled by the votes of just the members of those student orgs, or would these be?
So the nomination would come from the student orgs or the student demographics, and then the Senate would confirm them in as per normal.
And just the other question I asked, do you have any of this written up to an actual like document?
So some of the founding principles of this are already in the draft constitution. A lot of this will fall into the bylaws, because a lot of the current Senate nomination and splitting is in the bylaws. So that part has not been written yet, but it will be, if we move forward with this proposal, it will be presented with the draft constitution.
I don't know if this would fall on discussion or questioning. I have,
I'll pause time. What is it?
I have like several concerns with the DEI system. I don't know if that's a questioning thing. I think that's discussion.
Yeah, if it's more of a concern, we'll move that to discussion.
I mean, if you want to ask me something
Yeah, no, you can-
It's just general concerns. I mean,
Okay.
you can address them
Yeah, in
during
discussion.
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll restart.
And is there anyone, could you check my laptop to see if anyone online has
No
any?
one, I have my notes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In that case, is there a motion to move into discussion?
So moved.
Okay, in that case, we'll start with 5 minutes for discussion, and I'll start off with.
Thank you.
I guess I'll start. So the DEI seats, the goal or the intention of this is to give historically marginalized groups more of a voice. And that is actually something I really think it's something I agree with. I think that everyone should have a voice, and it should be equal voice. I think everyone should have a voice, and it should be equal. That's, I believe in equality and fairness. So I like the intentions here. I don't think that these seats really achieve the purpose. Basically, I mean, it's really not equitable or inclusive at all, because basically what this is doing is it's basically excluding a ton of groups, and it's I mean, it's giving these guaranteed seats to these specific groups. But I mean, as I've noticed, that you really aren't hitting every group. I mean, just the other day, Chris that mentioned disabled people, we missed them. And then, you know, I'm looking at it right now. I'm not even represented up there. I'm Arab, but you have Muslim up there, and not all Arabs are Muslim. So, you know, right there, it's like that's already another marginalized group that's not being represented up there. And then I think I believe Jason brought up a point like, well, Black students, not every single Black student is African American. Some of them are African. So now we need you know, an international and domestic seat. So, you know, it's like this system really, it's a slippery slope, because when you're trying to give these representation of these groups, it's like you keep finding groups, you know, you're never going to be able to represent everyone, and you're just going to have to keep adding seats. Otherwise, it's just not fair that one group gets represented and one doesn't. So, and they're already taking up 20%. If we have to add more, it'll take up a lot more seats. So I don't think this system really can achieve inclusion. And I don't think the system is really fair, because I mean, like, just why are these groups getting a guaranteed seat and others aren't? And I guess just another point, instead of the system, I think either we just don't need these seats, like just how it is right now without the DI seats, or we can make just one DI seat and we can move PSAC, you know, the PSAC council can represent one vote in the Senate. That way, if we keep adding groups, they'll fall under that one senator seat, and it won't really, it'll, I guess, will be future proof. And I guess that's all the concerns I have.
Okay, I saw no whispers.
Thank you. So I agree. I cannot deny that this system, nor I think any system, will be totally 100% inclusive of every minority group. And I don't want to pretend like that's going to be something our system will ever achieve, because it's not. However, I do want to focus on one of the main goals of the DEI seats is to bring voices to the larger and or more impacted groups of DEI to address the kind of the rampant, it's only going to continue growing problem. Firstly, just like approving this model, no new DEI seats will happen without a constitutional amendment or a bylaw amendment, which requires the consent of Senate. So there will never be a point where a seat will just be added randomly. The only reason why this disabled seat was added now is because we're still in this drafting phase. I think that's important to note. Any future changes, especially after if we do vote on this and accept it, will be happened only with the 50% plus one consent of the Senate. Furthermore, again, I would just like to reiterate the point that no system, I think, is going to be totally 100% inclusive. And this system, by design, isn't equal. I want to make it like an emphasize that it's an equitable solution. We are trying to make sure, and with equitability, there is going to be a little bit of inequality. But I think that is a noble pursuit in the sake of helping or moving towards an equitable. Thank you.
Before we continue, we are out of time.
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
Second.
I don't know
Do you
if we
want
have
to do?
time for that.
I'm letting this go until 9:05, which is 8:50. So if you want to motion to 10 minutes, that's fine. That'll be the last motion.
Not a motion at time.
Second.
Okay. You can say. Chris, go ahead.
So first I want to say there's precedent for a structure like this in other student governments and in the corporate world in terms of how organizations are structured. After discussing, I've discussed this with other students at school here as well, including different international students, and they think this is a good idea. My mother got her master's degree in organizations and their development and their creation. And this is a pretty common sound model for DEI. A lot of the empirical evidence in like the research literature shows that stuff like this is very beneficial for DEI, especially since these groups are particularly targeted, and I think like perhaps we could increase the at-large seats by a few members, but there is precedent for this. There's empirical evidence for this type of structure, and it does make sure that these voices who are typically overlooked do get a voice.
I just want to pause for a brief information in that originally in the original proposal, ISO did have a seat. I don't know what happens to that.
So is that
International students.
okay? I must.
That was something that was on there that was admitted because
Yeah, I think if we find this model fine, then that's a discussion we can have about that specific one. But I think the discussion here is more at broad. Do we accept this general?
well, that is true. I'm just letting you know
Yes,
that that's something
thank
that's
you.
just been missed out from the.
Thank you,
That's
Lenny.
just
Yeah.
incorrect. Go to Joseph.
Yeah, I guess I'll just try to address both of that, starting with Nova. You're saying that it won't be an issue because we'll have to get, congressional approval to add new seats. But what I'm saying is that you're still gonna get people coming up and saying, oh, I'm not represented. So you're gonna keep having the issue of, you're gonna have to keep debating then, and we're gonna have to keep, deciding whether or not we have to, amend the Constitution for this. Also, I know you're trying to say that you want a more equitable system, but I mean, this is inherently it's not fair. I mean, let's say we have a situation in which these at-large seats happen to actually just be, these same groups happen to win those seats one semester. Then these groups that don't have one of these seats they have no representation at all. You know, it's like these other seats, these at-large seats, they're not guaranteeing anybody something, but these seats are guaranteeing. So, you know, there can be a situation in which these, you know, there will be groups that just aren't represented in the Senate. So I don't think that is more fair. I think if anything, this is like favoring these specific groups and excluding other groups, which it goes against the last point of DEI, which is inclusion. It's inherently, you know, excluding groups. And I don't think we should adopt a system that is just, you know, inherently, you know, not fair and not equal. Like, I don't think that's right. And another point, you know, we already have a DEI, you know, vice president in this system that can address DEI concerns. I really think that these marginalized groups do need a voice, but I don't think the solution is giving each one of them a seat. I think we can find other systems in SGA to help these groups. I think you're really just opening up a can of worms with this, because, you know, it's like you're putting something in the system that's just inherently unfair, and it will keep bringing up issues because groups will want to be represented. It's like when you give one group special treatment, all the groups are going to want special treatment. So the solution should just be, we shouldn't give anyone special treatment. We should just, you know, give everyone a fair shot, because, you know, sometimes there's going to be, you know, senates that won't have everyone. And, you know, that's just how it is. That's why we need to make other systems to help these groups, instead of giving, you know, special treatment to certain groups and basically saying that their problems are more important than other groups' problems. I don't think that's a positive message at all. And I think we should either limit it down to just one seat that basically is just gonna be adopting PSAC, or, you know, we can make a DEI committee for, I mean, we already have the VP, you know, proposed in this. We could just make that responsible for lifting these voices up.
I'm sorry, it was first.
I don't know when Ben put his hand up, but I think Tessel's after me.
I don't
don't know, Ben, when you put your hand up.
We'll go to that first. We'll go. Yeah.
All right, yeah. I think overall, we're kind of addressing a problem that doesn't exist right now. Problem is not underrepresentation. Problem is the fact that this room is not full. We have open seats. We always do. The problem that we need to address is not giving these groups seats that they are represented. It's getting to these groups and telling them, hey, you should join SGA. You know, I noticed we don't have too many Asian senators. You know, we're trying to get our DEI going. I know you're a great guy. Why don't you come join SGA? I think we should be doing outreach to these groups, trying to get them in to fill the existing vacancies we have before we add all these new seats. That's my opinion.
Just clarification, this, in this model, PSAC is dissolved and absorbed into SGA. Right?
Yeah, that's also just something that's just straight up happening over the course of the next few years.
With that happening, the representation that is currently given to these groups is getting eliminated basically by the dissolution of PSAC. So it would make very little sense for like PSAC to be dissolved and just no representation whatsoever.
First, to address Ben's points, I totally agree, and I think no one can disagree that filling up this room should be priority number one. And so one of the things we are doing, just to kind of update everyone, is that we're also working to move with a lot of the student advocacy groups, like PSAC has been mentioned, but also RHA and Union Board, in order to make it so that SGA is like the body for students to go to. We find that there's a lot of admin and executive board has found that there's a lot of confusion about if a student has a concern, what do we do? And so that's like, we're trying to address that as well. That is obviously a concern. And I think that is something we should also strongly be working for, is making sure we fill up the seats first and foremost. And also Sean brought up a similar comment in the chat. So you're not alone in feeling that. As to address the points before it, not Ben's point, I think that there's an unfairness in the kind of hammer you're using to view or the lens you're using to view our model, because if you continue with that logic, right, we don't want to represent certain groups when we exclude certain groups. I feel like you could keep applying that, right? The by-year seats inherently are a little exclusionary, right? If you're not a year one student, those year one seats are exclusionary to you. So I feel like if you were to, like, and you could do it by college and you could do it by the other minority groups, if you were to continue extending that logic, I think it very quickly becomes evident that it's a little ridiculous to go with that line of logic, because in the end, the ultimate line of that logic is, let's just have an all at-large Senate, which, if that's a model you want to do, sure, but I think most people recognize the benefit of having these by-year and by-college seats, because students who are year 4 have different experiences and different interactions with the university than year 1 students. Someone in Armor College is going to have different interactions and different interests and different ideas than someone from the Kent Law School, who doesn't even have a spot here on campus and has their own institution. I think that's all we're doing with this model, is extending that logic of, hey, these groups have different interactions with the university. So we have to we should represent them by giving them guaranteed seats. That's all DEI seats are, is extending that to the bigger minority groups within the Senate.
I call him Joseph, and just because of time, and not only time just in terms of the 10 minutes, but also just because it's about 9 p.m. You are the last person that will speak.
I'll try to keep it brief. With Ben's point, yeah, I pretty much agree, but our priority should be just filling up the Senate. With Tessa's point, I kind of already addressed that. I said that we should basically just make PSAC 1 seat. Basically, I mean, that will basically incorporate them into the Senate directly. I mean, they're not really going to be lost. Their voice is not going to be dissolved. Like, they're going to be directly integrated into the Senate. It's just that you won't have the problem of, if there's a new group that wants to be represented, we won't have to add a new seat. They'll just join that PSAC and it will just be that 1 seat. And then addressing Nova's concern, I don't really think it's a fair comparison, because when you have the colleges and the year 1, they're, all of them have the common identity of being IIT students. They do have different experiences, but their identity is the same. This one, it's directly basing it off of identity. And when you're not representing all identities, that means you're basically saying these identities are more important than whatever identities aren't represented. I think, and I also do want to bring up the point that I think you said UIC, or one college had like a problem with Chicago. They had like problems come up with these seats, so they just decided to get rid of them altogether because it was bringing up problems. So there is actually precedent from other schools of this leading to like problems, and like, it's just, I don't think it's worth the headache for SGA to implement something like this.
That's time. Over there. Thanks for that discussion. I will just say Senator Liliana earlier on, I just didn't read this. He said that she also agreed that it was not really inclusive. That was at the beginning of the discussion. Yeah. Of course, we'll keep having further talks about this. I say this later on in my report. The good thing is we have a lot more time truly to figure out the Senate, because the idea is that the new Senate positions would take effect with the new fall elections, which of course that's next semester. So we technically do also have all of next semester as well to continue these discussions. So it's not that we're very much at a time restraint there. Okay. And with that, I think it's just reports. Yeah. So we'll go to
Thank you. So yeah, I had 2 meetings yesterday. first was it's not first, but first on the list is my food advisory board meeting. Tis the Season is an event that will be happening at lunch tomorrow. You might have even received an email about that earlier today. Christmas, kind of wintry foods, expect that to be there. There's gonna be like a market or something. I'm very excited for it. Late night is December 5th, 9 to 11. I believe that's the time. If I have heard your concerns, since Monday is a testing day, we are looking to maybe move it back to the Friday before for future late night breakfast. This one will be December 5th. That is finalized. And I believe SGA will also be having something there, so please do show up. It would be really cool. And then also it's free if you're a student, like it doesn't even count as a meal. So there's literally no reason to show up unless you have a final, which I'm really sorry for you. Meal plans, they expire on December 10th. They didn't tell me to say this, but it is something to note. That will be, I think, Friday or Saturday, next Saturday, yeah. Next Saturday, the Saturday afterwards. So after all finals are over, essentially after the finals week. As for all of these things, Second Girl rating machine, soup at a served bird, and the panini press. Those are, for some of those, parts are coming in where relevant. And or those will all be worked on over winter break. So for most of those, you can expect to see those changes next semester. Longer center court hours, this was something AJ brought up at our food advisory board meeting. And I think it was a great point. Basically, they said if the survey results show that students are interested in longer center court hours, they will do a trial at the beginning of the semester. And if the sales back it up, then it'll become a permanent thing. Just letting you know, it might not be guaranteed. Again, it's conditional on those survey results. So if you didn't fill out that survey and now you're feeling regret, well, I guess that sucks. OCL recap, very short. Exec/Senate graduate courts, maybe. T will talk about it. And then we're also, Isaiah and I primarily will be working with OCL to update Rachel on SGA changes. We might be able to do something over winter break or at the beginning of next semester. That's basically what T and Graham said. And then also, I guess I don't have it on here, but Joel will be working with OCL as well to create a system for student orgs so we can better track them. This is like a lot of things coming together, but one of the big ones is from my facilities meeting. We found a great need to track student orgs that use heavy machinery or specialized equipment, because if those go defunct, like that could pose a real hazard. And a lot of the old lab spaces underground that aren't in use anymore are from student orgs that have like requested that equipment and then don't use it anymore. So it's going to be a huge system, hopefully. Joel has told me he's very excited to work on it, and OCL is very excited to work with him. So for you guys, that might not mean much of a change, but it is going to be a lot easier for SGA and OCL. And maybe those changes will materialize on Suitable with better student org tracking and whatnot. Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Thank you. We got this. Oh, I didn't.
It's after campus administration for whatever reason.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Graham's gone, so.
Graham left. That's funny. Okay, I can do this.
Still here.
Oh, you
How
are.
dare you?
I'll get rid of you.
Never speak for me again, Nova.
We're almost done, Graham. There we go. So for me, so like I said before, the current plan is to probably not the Senate changes, but definitely at least executive board changes. Hopefully in December or January, either or. The idea is that, like I said, Senate changes can either way, no matter when you approve them, it will be. So again, the idea is that it would be slate and then going and everything would kick in, which is why it's a good thing that Senate are in the fall, because that gives us more time to have this discussion, which is needed. At the very least, though, I would really like for the executive board changes to happen before we have executive elections, which is usually before spring break. So if we could have that approved by December, early next semester, that would be phenomenal. That way we can advertise it, get the word about what the positions do, just kind of figure all that out. Yeah. In terms of other things too that I forgot to put up here as well, just regarding the changes. I'm still in talks with RHA just about how that merger will work. They're supportive of it. They're going to figure out the specifics, so that will like resident's life. As well as to with finance board, still kind of working out that power dynamic. Those kind of just things that are up in the air. But I think it's all pretty shortly, not like kind of the Senate stuff. That's that. Moving on, I'm working on getting y'all a little bit more time with administrators. From my talk from other universities, I've learned that administrators come to Senate meetings or whatever they call the representative body, and basically will kind of stand, this sounds weird, but they describe it as stand trial, and just allow senators to ask them basically anything, kind of like our town hall sessions here, but more so specifically for you all. That way they can have more specific questions towards them and all that jazz. I think that's a pretty nice model. So I'll try to get that. I know T came to an earlier meeting. I don't think I was at that one, but I'll try to get that going on for next semester for you all. That way you can ask more specific questions, get your feedback out there. Something I really need help with is advertising our open positions, especially our VP of Academic Affairs, because no matter what we change, it's going to be a role that exists. And we really need a VP of Academic Affairs, especially after finals. I guarantee you, we're going to get a whole lot of complaints about what's on next week. And it's going to be kind of up to just level E board to kind of figure out. So if you're interested in academic affairs stuff, let me know. That way we can get you nominated and all that jazz. Or just if you know anyone else that is interested, just please let us know. And then my last thing too, thank you all so much for this semester. I know all these changes have at times been fun, have times have not been fun. It's been a lot either way. So I just want to thank you for all your work, not only with the constitutional changes, but just everything else that has gone on this semester. As well as I just want to say thank you to everyone that has stuck around. We've always, as you can see, have always had attendance issues. But I feel as the people that have stuck around this time around have been very great assets. So thank you. I do think the best days of SGA are ahead. So with your help, kind of achieve that. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say. Again, just thank you all so much. And then with that, we'll go to Graham. The changes.
He's been subverted once again.
Silence of the.
Let me speak. Let me speak.
There you go. You're good.
Okay. Well, first of all, that was a really great discussion about the DEI seats. I know there was disagreement, but that's not always a bad thing. I think that was really productive discussion, and I think you all handled it really well, even the parties that disagreed. And so I'm sure I will be talking about this with Nova and Isaiah just because I meet with them on a regular basis, but I want to extend that to any other SGA members, if they ever want to like debrief or process any of the meetings. The OCL team is happy to do that with you. So swing on by because I see some of you, but I don't know most of you, even though we've worked together the whole semester. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and offer that up to you all. The agenda item I had was about self-care week. So we've been hosting, we and the library and Student Health and Wellness Center and some student organizations have been hosting events this week, and we will into next week too, related to taking care of yourself as you study and study and study. So check out the lineup here. It's just a link to
Yeah, I can open the link.
a Google sheet, but there's quite a bit going on. Apparently they're puppies. So the library has quite a few things. We've been on the bridge throughout the week, and then there's stuff next week too. We decided not to do stuff at the end of finals week just because it starts to slow down. The big thing next week is late night breakfast, but I've already talked about that quite a bit. That's it for me.
Epic. And yeah, you see that SGA and RHA late night breakfast. Woo, you should show up to that.
And I'll be at that event, so maybe we can say hi then.
Awesome. Can pie Graham in the face or something.
Yeah, if you give me $20, sure.
Yeah, SAF funded?
Yeah, might as well. Just
Hi, Graham in the face. I say have fun.
You can get that approved real quick.
I'll email Chloe.
Wait, it's probably on Buy It somewhere.
Oh, you can add a.
She kept, yeah. Yeah, she's like, you shouldn't care for me. She said that all the time, right?
Zion, your mic's on.
Sorry. All right, are there any Senate reports about anything?
I've been trying to work with board for, again, the reason I came into the SGA was, again, I want more engagement with students and everything. So I've been trying to work with the union board, so we are trying to come up with an event for, it's going to happen in the first 2 weeks of Jan, pretty much. It's going to be a New Year bash event kind of. There's going to be a dance floor and like a photo booth and other stuff. Again, I'm still like figuring out that stuff. So again, they asked me whether like SGA would be interested in like co-hosting the event. So
VP of events as well. Forgot to say that.
Well, if we vote on the exec board changes over
With
whether,
the except for changes that might not need it.
yeah, assuming those pass, then we won't need an event.
I think we're open floor. Chris.
Drink water. During finals week when you're nervous. It's so cliche. Water is God's greatest gift to this planet. Drink it. It'll make you feel good. It is almost impossible for your body to cry when you are drinking water because you're satisfying your most basic need. Drink water, please. Stay hydrated. If you can't get enough sleep, but just in general, stay hydrated. Yeah.
Yeah. On that, self-care is important. The self-advocacy is maybe not as important, but it's like second most. If kind of hinted at earlier, if you have problems with something during finals week, come to us. We might, we might be able to rough them up or something. But there are avenues to handle it. And being an SGA, we know those probably more than a lot of students. So if injustices are never fun, and my professors, they're still injustices. So
And fill out the evaluation forms.
Reach it.
A lot of people don't do that, but a lot of professors actually look at that and take it into account. Yeah.
Yeah, not too much.
Reach it. Now you do the course evaluation, but you knock them down a point.
To adjourn.
No, because actually there's something really important that I need to tell you all that I forgot about, and I'm also not joking about. It's not an emergency.
Get it? You went to Italy over break.
New provost. What's up, Graham?
I said we get it. You went to Italy over break.
No.
Man, your Instagram, I was so jealous over break. I was sitting at my CDA job,
Yeah.
doing nothing, watching your Instagram. I'm like, okay.
I hate absolutely hate it. I don't know what the password is. Okay, fine. I was gonna pull up the email, but it's being difficult, and only Joel will set his name, I swear.
Only go.
Well, it's on my personal email. Oh, here we go. It is. I can just send this to SGA really fast.
Oh, this, yeah.
So as you guys know, and this will be my last thing I promise you, I am on the provost search committee, which is just a committee basically to figure out who our new provost is going to be. Which, if you don't know, the provost is essentially the vice president of the university. They handle the day-to-day operations. So like OCL, housing, OTS, they all report to the provost. Provost reports to the president of the university. That's kind of the power structure there. So it's a very, very important role. Currently being filled by Dean Christensen, well, ex-Dean Christensen, now the acting provost. And I'm one of the two students on the board to basically help figure out who the new provost is going to be. However, you get to see the SGA email. Today, apparently, I don't know if this is a thing either. Apparently today, there we go. So I'll start over again. So the chair of the committee is the dean of the Chicago Kent College of Law, excuse me. And apparently today there was a student listening session where students were supposed to go to it and basically say what they wanted in a provost. Guess how many students went to that? Zero. Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing either. Apparently they sent an email about it on Monday. And they were like freaking out about it, asking me all these questions about it. I responded back and said, maybe, next time give us A, more than 2 days of a warning, and B, don't do it right before finals week when everyone's really busy. However, I just wanted to showcase these questions. I'll send this out in Discord if you guys are friends about it, and give me your own responses as well. I will bug every one of you to give me a response to this. But they want to know, they want answers to these questions of like important opportunity facing IIT, agenda items, what quality modifications you want, just what do you want in a provost? It's gonna help the entire search committee. I have my own ideas for it, but again, of course, I'm just one student on there. Be a lot more helpful if you have everyone's input on there, which is what the point of the student listening thing was. But no one signed up for it because IIT reasons. And so now they want our help basically. So yeah, it was a lot.
I just found the email. And yeah, it was sent on the 28th.
Yeah, they sent it on Monday for something.
And yeah, it doesn't. It looks like one of the newsletter ones.
Yeah, it was a newsletter. Yeah.
It looks like a newsletter.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. This was the original.
There it is.
Yeah. And also they did it from 2 to 3, which is like when almost everyone has a class. So there's just a lot of things they did wrong.
It's on the bus.
Yeah, there was just a lot they did wrong with that. But yeah, please, I'll send it again in Discord. Please send me your responses. Tell your friends about that. That's all I have. Nova.
Let's go, Illinois Tech students, showing that spirit of attendance. And once again, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Any second?
Oh my God. Good luck next week, everybody. I'll see you next semester.
Sorry for
Stay winning.
Oh, you're good. You're good. All right, see you guys online. I'm gonna end the meeting. I'm going to sleep. I don't know if you guys know, but I went to Italy. I'm still a little bit jet lagged from that, so I need to kind
You went to Italy. You don't sign. God, you went to Italy. This one.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily, but
I was.
that's just a lot.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I know Naeem's RHA president, I live with the dude.
Very
I know.
So, and that must have been.
Yeah, it's a lot.